ride together, we die together. Bad boys for life. Get busy living, or get busy dying.
King first, last. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Welcome to Brews and Reviews with Mick and Pat. I'm Mick.
And I'm Pat.
And each week we sit down with you degenerates to pretend we're certified cicerones and cinephiles.
That is right. So let's grab a cold one and join us as we review Zombie Ice by Three Floyds and the movie 28 Years Later.
And if you've been with us before, you know what time it is.
Release the Kraken!
You were way early on that one.
I don't know. I don't know if I was earlier or late.
I thought it was supposed we crack it after the Kraken.
We crack it on the woof.
Oh, I've always cracked on after the Kraken.
Huh.
We have to listen to the previous episodes. All right. Yeah. So Billie Jean, God bless her soul, while I was driving back from shooting today, was being a wonderful spouse and supportive spouse as she looked up at one of our local big liquor store warehouses and found this Three Floyds Brewery, and that they had a beer called Zombie Dust. So I was going there to pick up a 6-pack because they said it was in stock. Got there, they said they were sold out, but they had Zombie Ice. And I was like, bro, Zombie Ice, man. Zombie Ice sounds like the most... Pat, tell me if I'm wrong. This sounds like the most gas station beer.
Oh, yeah.
This sounds like the most like Four Lokos.
Gas station alcohol beverage.
Yeah, and
Not
I was
even
like,
beer.
I don't know if I want this. Like, and I was like, is it still beer? And he's like, yeah, it's still beer, but you just gotta buy them individually as tall boys. I'm like, this isn't helping the case. This is not helping the case at all. But anyway, so we got him here. It's a undead double IPA or double pale ale, maybe not Indian pale ale, but yeah, I'm gonna take my first taste here, and I don't think undead means anything, does it, Pat?
I don't think so. I think it's their own thing. Yeah. On this can, this says it's not normal. This is Zombie Ice, the undead double pale ale from Three Floyds. On the front, they got like this skull zombie creatures. Less zombie-y than just more like a I don't know. What's the guy from
This to me looks like, if you look up on your computer there, Pat. Looks to me like the Death Horseman from the game Darksiders.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
See, on their website, they got him like in a hood.
Oh, that doesn't even look like this dude.
No, but it's kind of like a...
That looks more like what's his name? Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, exactly.
You should tell people what this website is.
Oh, the Three Floyds website. It's pretty cool. When you go to their website, it's like select your beer, but it's kind of like select your character.
From like a Mortal Kombat game. It looks pretty good.
You click it, and they all have characters for all their beers, and they've got like all the stats on their beers and stuff. And so, yeah, this one, it's 8.5 ABV, 55 on the IBU, which, as we'll find out, is kind of weak for Three Floyds. Because
is it? Yeah.
Because we'll get into the history of this place. I mean, they started in 1996, and says they made their first beer called the Alpha King Pale Ale, and to do a British pale ale, and they said it was so bitter that when they took it to local retailers and bars, some people were spitting it out after sampling it. And then that's when they say, we knew we were on the right track.
I've definitely had beer like that. You know, like rando. Here's the thing. I feel bad. Like, I'll go visit someone. I'm like, oh yeah, like, you like beer, man? Like, come on, we'll go try this local brewery in some nowhere town, Indiana. And I say Indiana just because they're from Muncie or Munster. But like, you go there and you try it and you're like, this is god awful. Like, this is such bad beer. Rarely is a beer bad enough that I spit it out, but
for sure.
I think it's admirable that they saw that as like a mark of honor.
Yep. But hey, that's their whole thing is they want to make not normal beer. And so Then they made the next one that's coming in at 85 IBUs, getting even more bitter. And it was still getting spit out. And they said they really knew they were on the right track. So ever since then, they've been growing, trying to make kind of unique beers and stuff. I like their main logo. Their main logo kind of looks like the Avenged Sevenfold, like a skull with wings, you know?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Anyways, they have like a tap room there. Looks like it's closed right now for remodeling, but they've got a tap room out in Munster, Indiana. And yeah, they've got kind of this, I'd say their website matches the Mick and Pat vibe of nostalgia. And like all their stuff's kind of like, looks like old video games or like old computers and like the whatever. It's that's their thing.
I mean, that's a point for them from me, but dude, honestly, like Zombie Ice is an awful name. I'm just gonna be. That's an awful name. Like if ice is in your beer name, it immediately gets the stereotype of Natty Ice, which is the trashiest. Like I'm an alcoholic. I need to drink beer so I function, but I also need to roof a house today. And that's like, you know what I mean? Like that is the contractor needs to work, but also needs to satiate their alcoholism.
Because this is so in Zombie Ice. It seems like came out of zombie dust. Because they say this was crafted with an unholy amount of citra hops. This double undead pale ale heralds the zombie evolution after the dust has settled from the apocalypse. So,
Interesting.
So there it is.
I don't get how ice is a result of dust settling.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think maybe they knew what they were doing. Like even like the font on it is a little like. I think they were making fun of the name like that in cans like this.
That's the thing though. They may be making fun of it, but they might have done too good of a job. And I'll say this, if Billie Jean did not send me this, I would have passed this up immediately. I would have been like, no, thank you. Not interested in garbage gas station beer. All that said though, should we do a swish test?
I'm ready.
All right. I'm going to explain it while Pat does it. But you take a little bit of a tablespoon amount of beer into your mouth and you let it roll over the tip and back and sides of your tongue, and you switch your tongue side to side to get the beer sloshing. And then you let it all get in front of the tongue, behind your front teeth. And then you push it through your front teeth. Yeah, just like that. And it aerates it a lot and should bring out all the different flavors inside. According to this can, I don't expect there to be more than citrus. I think that's the flavor they're going for. So I'm going to go ahead and do it, but Pat, give us your thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's just citrus straight. But this is straight in the vein of like the current IPAs that are very popular. I think where it's kind of that Juice Force IPA flavor. I'm not sure if I had them side by side, if I'd tell a major difference, besides the fact I've had a lot of Juice Forces over the years.
I was going to say this tastes exactly like Juice Force. Like this is 1-to-1 Juice Force.
It's like a notch. It's like notched back one, I think, because like on the dial, because the Juice Force is also, it's pretty heavy at like 9.7.
Is it?
But I mean, I'd say if I closed my eyes and was like, there, guess this beer, I'd say, I think I'd say Juice Force.
Yeah, this is gas station Juice Force.
So,
which Juice Force is often in many gas stations.
It's nowadays become a gas station beer as well.
Yeah.
Since we first reviewed it on the show. The first beer ever reviewed on
Juice
the Mick
Force.
and Pat show.
Yeah. It did taste better than, I'm going to be honest. I've had it. I just had a Juice Force not too long ago, and I was like, wow, this used to taste so much better.
I think they started making it for mass and sticking it in every. I was in a gas station in Florida. They had it down there, like
unreal.
It's everywhere, for sure. So, I think that this beer tastes like these citrus IPAs that are coming out. You know,
it does.
And
it's not, in my opinion, not bad. It's not bad beer.
Yeah,
but it's also just another IPA. It's another citrus IPA, and. You know, it's, I mean, I guess I'll just say it does taste like a slightly less bitter Juice Force, in my opinion.
And the main marketing on here is it's not normal. I'm gonna say
It's pretty normal.
this is kind of normal. You know, kind of normal.
What if they were like, yeah, but we were doing it long before Juice Force?
That's true. Maybe this did come out in 2023, so
Not long before. Yeah, same time. Same time.
Same time.
That's funny. I mean, what did we give Juice Force? I think we gave Juice Force a 1 thumb or no thumbs.
I think it's probably 1 thumb each. You know,
Was it 1 thumb each?
was it pre-established thumbery? I mean, it was the first one. The system might have not been locked in as much as we've truly locked in the thumb system these days.
Yeah, the thumb system is pretty well established at this point.
It's like the NIST of beer.
Well, I'll say this. Nowadays, I'd give Juice Force no thumbs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just the, most common palate IPA currently.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean it's bad. That just means it's not like above average great.
Mm-hmm.
And with this, I kind of want to give it 1 thumb. And the reason I want to give it 1 thumb is because I expected it to be so much worse.
Oh, yeah.
I expected it to be so bad. And with a name like Zombie Ice, for it to taste this good, I'm kind of impressed. But maybe that's just the marketing getting at me, the graphic design subtleties at work. So I don't know. I think I'm going to go no thumbs on this, Pat. I think I'm going to go no thumbs on Zombie Ice. Certainly not a thumb down. Certainly a beer that I could drink and just like enjoy, 1 or 2 at an event. But it's not going to be what I bring to the next event. And it's, I guarantee if I put it in a red Solo cup with Juice Force, it's going to look the exact same.
Yep.
So I don't know. I got no points against it, but it's just also no points for it tasting like Juice Force.
I think that's fine. And I think I'm at a no thumber on this too. Because for the same reasons, I was expecting something a little bit more maybe out there. Like even if it was bad, but it was out there. Like something just strange.
Like the battery acid beer.
Yeah, just something that's like, okay, it knows what it is.
What was that beer?
Nightmare Fuel.
Yeah. That was out there.
It was out there. But we also think that got us some downed thumbs. It was pretty rough.
That was rough.
But I'm going no thumbs. And that's a C.
It's a C.
It's a C. It's an average.
You can't spell college degree without C's and D's.
I would say it is normal. I do. I think that we picked the right one for solely the fact of the movie that we're reviewing.
Which is?
28 years later.
Boom.
Yep. So, zombies. And maybe not technically zombies.
Technically, I don't think zombies.
But
they do say the word zombie in the movie. They're like, put down that zombie baby.
And it
Spoiler alert.
And it's zombie. The 28 series they're zombie movies, but
yeah, they are for sure oriented and categorized as zombie films, even though you might quote unquote say like, well, they're not zombies, they're infected.
Technically.
They're viruses. But the people don't die when they get infected and reanimate.
Right.
And they can die from not just like headshots, you know what I mean? There's never a rule in any of the films that's like, you got to shoot them in the head, right? It was like very much just like do mass damage to the point where the body shuts off.
Yep.
Although there is a scene in the second movie. This is also not a spoiler because Pat hasn't seen these, and I'm fine saying it. There's definitely a scene in the second movie, Pat, where like a helicopter rotor goes through a crowd of these things. And they're still crawling afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's just the viruses, like, increased adrenaline throughout the body. And it's like, yeah, I get it. But also, like, those are kind of zombies. Zombies keep crawling after helicopter rotors go through them, you know?
For sure.
But, all right. Well, yeah, let's get into the movie here. I'll do, like, just a little bit, again, the usual kind of recap of the plot. This is the third movie in the series. And it picks up 28 years after the first one. A group of survivors of the rage virus live on a small island in England, the UK. When one of the group leaves the island on a mission into the mainland, he discovers secrets, wonders, and horrors that have mutated not only the infected, but other survivors Which, you know, I think the like summary of that's again pretty okay for IMDb. I would add on to it, especially post watching this, that this is really a coming of age hero's journey movie more than it is a infected zombies movie. And I think I want to say that now just so people are in the proper frame of reference when we're talking about the film and its themes and stuff and our opinions on it, because the other the other 28 movies, like 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, are not at all hero journeys or coming of age journeys. They are purely like
horror movie,
horror action with like as all horror movies usually are, a level of social commentary. Like the first movie really does have a thing of like, oh my gosh, like how awful is this after, you know, waking up and seeing like the world's gone to hell in 4 weeks. But really the monsters, like the worst monsters in the movie, are definitely like the debased humans that justify immorality in a time where society's fallen. And then the second movie, I don't even think the second movie really has much of like a social commentary as much as maybe of just like the government can fail even when it has the best intentions. The government can like do things poorly. But anyways, those social commentaries, you could watch the whole movie and not pick up on them at all and just be like, wow, this is a zombie horror movie. This is not a zombie horror movie. Like I would never explain to someone that this is a horror movie. I explained to Billie Jean on the way home, because Pat and I actually for once saw a movie together, and then our wives were hanging out and we drove back, and I told Billie Jean, I don't think you would have liked it, even though it wasn't really a horror movie. There were horrific things that occurred in it. There were horrific scenes, but the overall vibe was not horror. And it really did, honestly, like I thought there was horrific scenes in Hamlet. I thought there was horrific scenes in some of these other more like medieval Shakespearean fantasies. What's the big one? Not Hamlet, but the Macbeth. Honestly, this feels like it could have been a Shakespeare movie. You know, a movie adaptation of a Shakespeare story, because there was just like this weird level of fantasy hero's journey storytelling to it, which I don't want to spoil more without getting like into the other things about it, but like I'm curious, Pat, how you feel about it, because I hadn't processed the film after we had seen it enough to understand that's how I felt. But I knew when we walked out, I was like, I'm disappointed it wasn't a zombie horror movie. But I don't know if I'm disappointed in the movie. I think the movie it could have been a good movie, but I'm so rug pulled right now that I have to process what it was.
I think that with the first two movies that came out, that was,
which you haven't seen,
right? I haven't seen, but a horror movie. They were horror movies, but they, in that moment for those characters, they were living in a horror movie. The characters in this third movie are no longer living in a horror movie. They are living in their normal. Like, it's been 3 decades, so therefore they're living in a horrific world that is now normal. So like the stage or the universe has been set for just where they're living their lives out, I think is part of it too, where like, so in the same way that if a zombie outbreak happened right now, the level of horror and upheaval would be, you know, so psychologically devastating to it's like me and you right now. If it happened right now, in 30 years from now, that would just be the way it is.
Yes,
but we
see very clearly on display. Like society's moving on. In fact, it's kind of nice. Kind of like what a lot of people I think would want nowadays is like a little agrarian private community where they get to all work together. It was pretty communist utopia.
Definitely. And so I think that that's a part of, I don't know if that was intentional from them on that side of things, or if they just wanted to make a more to tell a different type of story around it. I think they used the 28 days or 28 weeks or 28 years universe to just tell a story in that world and continue moving the story forward.
I agree with that.
Because yeah, it's almost even like kind of like some like the later seasons of Walking Dead. Versus like the first like...
Well, The Walking Dead was always about the survivors or the Walking Dead.
Right. But
not the
like,
zombies. Yeah.
But I mean like that first season where it's like, oh my God, this is like...
Zombie apocalypse.
The apocalypse was over. Now you're just going... Like by season 4, it just is like, this is what we're doing.
This is post-apocalypse.
And it's, a post-apocalyptic world, which that's probably the best way to describe it. They live in post-apocalyptic world versus living through an apocalypse.
Especially, which everyone just so knows, if you don't know if you're going to see the movie or not and don't want spoilers, bow out now, because now we're gonna get into it. Because I'm going to start referencing some other parts of the film that play into what Pat's discussing here. But I think big thing that points to that is like the soldiers from
Finland or
I think it was Sweden.
Or Sweden, yeah. But
they get shipwrecked on the United Kingdom, and they're trying to survive while the zombies are there. They all have modern tech and equipment, and they have their cell phones. And one of them, while stranded on here, is trying to communicate to the survivors on the island, one of our main characters, just the like the rules of the world around that outside of the island. And he pulls out his phone at one point and is looking through stuff, and this kid is so confused by it, and you could tell like this soldier has like no empathy for this kid's lack of experience or knowledge on like what he's showing him. Like he's like just caught up with his own circumstances of being trapped, and like the world is just like, yeah, the UK's gone. Yeah. The UK is a quarantined island of infected. That's just the way life is.
And the rest of the world is just like we are now.
Yeah, the rest of the world is a modern 21st century.
Everything's moved forward, and UK is just inaccessible or quarantined off.
But all right, getting into that point stuff. Do you want to just go briefly over director, top cast? Director Danny Boyle, who also directed the first 28 Days Later, and he only directed the introduction scene for 28 Weeks Later. Alex Garland wrote 28 Days Later and has worked with Danny Boyle on a bunch of stuff, but Alex Garland wrote this film. Danny directed it, mostly directed and filmed through the lens of iPhones, which is a kind of controversial thing because I definitely think the quality of the film, just in regard to like color, picture, contrast, all that, was actually worse. It felt very art house, felt very it felt like I shouldn't have been paying to watch it in a movie theater. I'll be like the quality, I get like it's cool because the first 28 Days Later was filmed and almost like you see it today and you're like, dude, the quality of this is crazy low. And it was like filmed on like old like hand-me-down network used like used by the BBC
film cinema cameras. Old stuff, like
super low quality though. Like not your actual true like 35 millimeter film cameras, like the film cameras used for filming the news, and they were shit. But it had that look to it that made it look very nostalgic.
It helps a horror film.
It does help a horror film, and it helps the post-apocalypse feel of like I'm watching something that's coming after the world has ended. The iPhone really, I don't think is a good phone. I mean, I don't think it's a good medium for filming and capturing the kind of like the enjoyable aesthetic of like a underground film. I think if you want to get the underground film thing, you just need to be willing to shell out for underground film cameras. Like get a legit old film camera and pay the money to get some film and get it developed if you want underground film stuff. The iPhone looks too clean and its frame rate is too high that when it's recorded on all this and they're using like high contrast, low light scenes of like inside an abandoned house or at night by the ocean, it looks fake to a really cheap way. Like I thought the night scenes looked really cheap, like very, very cheap. Unless it was like not actually a night. Like there's the scene where they're in like that kind of like abandoned ruins of like the castle. And that felt to me like it was never actually really nighttime. It was like dusk.
Like filters and stuff, yeah.
But then when they're crossing the causeway at night and there's the star, expanse across the sky because there's no light pollution, you can see the Milky Way and all that. That looked so cheap and fake to me. That looked like it was made in a studio that they only had a little bit of time to rent. It looked really bad in my opinion. I thought, especially with like how like the contrast of the white frothy water looked compared to the dark water. It just didn't look very good. Anyways, so it's got that weird kind of attempt to be underground, but it's got the budget and production level of like a true Hollywood film. So it feels like it's just not committed to one way or the other. And I kind of just wish they would have committed to using like real cameras, because I don't think this saved them that much money. Like they're still using like $80,000 camera lenses and camera rigs. They're just putting in an iPhone in them.
Right. Yeah.
But it was, so that was Danny Boyle, Alex, and their kind of direction focus here. And then the top cast was Jodie Comer. She was Mama. Aaron Taylor Johnson. He was Dada or Papa. And then Ralph Fiennes was this doctor in the woods. And then there's Alfie Williams, who plays our main protagonist, Spike, who is going on the hero's journey. Anything else there that you want to cover, Pat, before we get into like the timeline of events in the film and kind of like our opinions on it?
Smoke break.
Smoke break.
Hey, Ken, it's Mick, and I've got something important to talk about. We all hope we never find ourselves in a self-defense situation, but life's unpredictable. Enter the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer, an actual credible law firm you can put on retainer for your self-defense needs. For just $35 a month, you get national coverage in all 50 states for criminal and civil legal representation in self-defense situations, complete with a 24/7, 365 toll-free emergency line. That's real legal support when you need it most. What's in the package? Bail bonds, scene cleanup, firearm replacement, even mental health counseling. Plus, 0 fees for a laundry list of defense-related costs like expert witnesses. So support the show and get yourself some peace of mind. Click the link in our show notes or visit our sponsors page to sign up for the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer.
Hey folks, Pat here. If you're like Mick and I, you're a fan of classic tales like Lonesome Dove, Blood Meridian, The Three-Body Problem, and Steinbeck's East of Eden. With Audible, you can dive into these epic stories anytime, anywhere. Sign up for a free month, and your first audiobook is on the house. To start your free trial and support our show, click the link in the show notes or swing by the sponsors page on our website.
Want an awesome website for your podcast? Check out Podpage. We use it for the Mick and Pat show, and it's a game changer. Set it up in minutes, no coding needed. Support the show by using our link to get started. Your podcast deserves a home as great as ours. Podpage, the one-stop solution.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm curious now because I didn't know it was filmed on iPhones till just a little bit ago. Is some of the first scenes, I think it probably only worked well when they used them for scenes trying to capture horror. They're doing those weird jump cuts and coming back
Like
across, like
editing it with B-roll footage of like old-timey black and white war footage.
not that it was like remember it was like the first time the mom and son are in the room and she's having like a manic episode and it kept like
Jumping
snapping
around,
and jumping and like it was really
jarring.
it was jarring but fitting for what was going on. Or some of the up close, the way they did use them to scan across the faces and things and stuff. I think there was a couple places it kind of worked, but on the big overall it just seems like probably not a good iPhones have gotten really good, but probably not fully cinematic yet.
Like
they're
they're so good that like at an amateur level you can use them to make stuff look professional. But they're too good in that it doesn't look underground artistic anymore. Like, I kind of was like, why do that with iPhones when you should just get a camcorder or like an old Motorola and just film it on an old Motorola at like 480p and get that like old underground art film.
Going Blair Witch style.
Yeah.
Like kind of like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
All right. Hopping into it. So this is the hero's journey. And I'm going to approach this, and I've broken out the talking points as the way the hero goes on the journey. And so I got these few points for the intro, right? And I say the intro is just like before our hero sets off.
Mm-hmm.
So the opening is the day of the apocalypse, the day of the rage virus outbreak and society falling apart. And we see a room full of a bunch of young kids, probably kids mostly too old to be watching Teletubbies. They're like, probably middle school to mid-elementary age.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sitting there watching Teletubbies. All of them look super stressed. And a mom comes in says, no matter what, don't open this door, and leaves. And they're watching Teletubbies as the world outside is descending to screaming and noise and ruckus of the infected attacking. And then, bro, infected come in to the room and start eating these kids while one of them like hides behind the door and gets out. And that was that was a way to kick it off. I was like, when that happened, I was like, oh yeah, we're back. We're so back to 28 days later. Like, this is the brutality, the zombie shock factor I was expecting. And then we see this kid running out, and his mom tells him again, James, run away, run, James. And he turns and starts running. And it was kind of a little repetitive, I thought, with how many times she didn't die, but got to tell him to run away. She got to tell him to run away like 3 separate times after getting bitten and then tackled and then bitten again. And then he runs to this church where his dad apparently is. And his dad's the pastor or priest or whatever. And he's total classic, crazy, mad priest thinking this is God's will in the end times for people to be reborn into this new rage virus. And thankfully he doesn't force his son to he doesn't try to force his son to sit there and just get eaten with him. He's like, go and hide while I enjoy the rapture or whatever. And the infected come in through the windows and eat him and turn him into an infected, while our what we assume to be the protagonist, James, is hiding out in the church and then runs off with his dad's cross. Nice big golden kind of cross on a chain for him to have. Remember his father. And then he runs off, and we cut to now 28 years later on the island. Before I go any further with Spike's introduction, what'd you think about that introduction to that whole, like, this is the 28 days later? Because honestly, that first part felt very 28 days later. Maybe not as much of like, it was kind of on the nose, corny about the mad pastor. But the rest of it, I was like, oh yeah, this is the right vibe. This is it.
Yeah, but I thought it was, as it kicked off, I was like, that's intense. The children just got it. And yeah, and it was like I too thought that we were, getting set up with our main dude, and he's like, while his father's getting eaten in the grate above him, and did you hear him say, Father, why have you forsaken me?
Yeah.
And then, it's like they do a lot of biblical references kind of throughout this as well, which are maybe, sometimes that's useful. Sometimes it's like,
sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, tell me you don't know the Bible without telling me you don't know the Bible.
Yeah. Just kind of like just throwing it in for just cause. But, and so it went off with a bang, and I think what it did do really well was set up for someone like me who hasn't seen the other two movies to go, it did make this movie stand alone in its own way. You didn't have to have seen the other ones to watch this movie in its entirety and to kind of understand what's going on.
True.
Because they set up, here's what happened,
And they not retconned the second movie, because the second movie, spoiler alert, ends with the infection having spread outside of England to France, apparently. And it's kind of a very gloomy ending to the second film, because it's like, oh, it's out of control now and the whole world's going to fall. That's undone with like one black screen of text that says like the infection was pushed back out of Europe, and you know, the only place that has any infected now is the UK, and the UK has just been accepted to have been fallen. There's been no attempt to re-quarantine any areas and like rebuild civilization there. It's just accepted like, hey, no one who goes there can leave, no one who, you know, who's already there can leave. It's just the way it is. So yeah, it was pretty quick at establishing, summing up the first two movies and kind of what occurs. I did like that it didn't have any weird like attempt to try to summarize Jim's story, because Jim is also the name of the main protagonist in the first movie. Ironically, this movie opens up with a young boy James on the day of the infection. The first movie opened up with Jim, who was Cillian Murphy's character. But anyways, yeah, I didn't try to attempt to like sum up Jim and who Jim is and just be like, hey, in case you didn't see, here's who Jim is. And it really didn't do any effort to summarize the second movie, which I thought was okay, because then it really makes you feel like, all right, this is standing alone. I don't have to have the expectation that I'm going to encounter any of those other characters. This is a whole new story. Which that new story we see after the introduction 28 years later. Our protagonist Spike is waking up, and he's looking at a Power Ranger action figure he has and kind of briefly admires and like plays around with and then puts back on his desk before heading downstairs to meet his father. And his father's played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who's cooking breakfast. And we could tell it's a big day because his father's making a meal with like pork, like actual bacon, which on this small island community is clearly a very like expensive commodity. Yeah. So it's going to be an important day for our boy Spike. And it's at that time we also are introduced to his mother, played by Jodie Comer, where she is having this like manic, really tumultuous like confusion episode. Clearly some kind of like mental, or even like, I guess it's technically like could be a physical thing, but it seems like she's having a
mental breakdown coming on from a physical ailment.
Yeah. It seems like she's sick with something that is actually causing her to have like hallucinations and confusion and severe brain pain. And it's clear that Spike and his dad are pretty used to this, but also they don't have anything in their power they can do to make her better. And so Spike and his dad tell her like, yeah, it's Spike's big day today. He's leaving the island for the first time. He has to go be a man. This is his rite of passage to become a man and a proactive member of our community. And he's going to go to get his first kill and do some scouting, and then we're coming back. She loses her mind. Yeah. And starts calling her husband cunt over and over and over, like almost Tourette's-like. And go ahead.
Now, see, during that scene, when we first watched it, I was like, I did feel it was a mirroring of the infection. It wasn't the infection, but there was something, you didn't even understand what they were getting at yet, but I was like, okay, they are showing this person going through something that's the same thing as getting infected.
The rage virus turns infected people into mindless, angry, raging, cannibalistic maniacs. Also, there's diseases today that turn us into raging, mindless, confused, angry people. And that's clearly the parallel they're drawing there. We don't see her as, oh, she's infected, she's a zombie. We don't see that, but we do see is like, oh, this is an ill person. And I think that's, again, like the first parallel to your point, Pat, is that like this movie does have a point within it where it's like, hey, maybe the infected aren't not human. Maybe they are human and they're just as sick as she is. You know, and like there's this question of should we have empathy for them or not? But that'll come down the line. And we see the island, and like everyone is celebrating Spike as he leaves the island with his father to go out, and his father's testing him on the rules again, like, you know, the causeway. What's the rule with the causeway when it comes to like when we could use it? And it's like only at low tide, because high tide comes in and we can't make it across, and the current of the ocean will pull you away. And I was like, oh, that's sick. Rather than just being like, yeah, we can't swim it. It's like, no, we legit can't swim it because there's an ocean current. Of course there is. and you, no matter how hard you try, you wouldn't be able to swim in a straight line across that gap of land. And everyone is celebrating, like, go on, Spike, congratulations, Spike. They are also, I should say this too, I didn't know how thick their Welsh or like not even Cockney. I don't know what the accent is. It is like poor peasant English. And it's like some of the most thick, laid on accent of English. And like there's a good chance you will miss dialogue if you are not familiar with that accent. I don't know about you, but like Pat, like how hard was it for you to like kind of track some of the things in the beginning?
Yeah, it was, and I heard it was. I looked it up because I heard it the other day, but it's Northumbrian dialect.
Holy good Lord,
Northumbrian dialect, and it was like, it's a very thick, whatever it is, it's thick.
Well, it was authentic, I guess. You know, I thought it was really well done, but it was pretty hard to understand at times. Yeah, and so we also see like in this as Spike leaves. It's like the first time we see him like kind of almost not undermining his father, but just demonstrating like he's not going to be his dad because his dad doesn't try to soften or shelter, have like a mercy that he's taking Spike to the mainland from his mom. He just is honest and blunt with it, even if it hurts her feelings or causes her to get upset. But in her disease or, you know, fevered mind and hallucinations, she relapses and forgets what just happened. And she asks Spike where he's going and if he's going to school. He says, yeah, Mom, I'm going to school today.
He just lies to her for the sake of keeping the peace.
Exactly. And we see like he only does that after his dad leaves the room. And then now he sets off on the journey crossing the causeway to go to the mainland. And this is what I like to call in the hero's journey, becoming the hero, becoming a man, and the journey of like killing the father. Which those of you who are familiar with the hero's journey probably don't need an explanation, but for those of you who aren't, think of Disney movies. Disney movies do this pretty consistently in all like shapes and sizes, to some degree or another, but the protagonist's parents are almost always dead at the beginning of a movie, or they are dying, or they are going to soon die. And rarely I can't think of the last time a protagonist in a movie in a Disney movie had both parents all the way through. But essentially the killing of the father is the requirement that for the hero to develop into the hero, there must be a vacuum of the requirement to be a man or to be a woman, right? And we see this often with these like journeys of maybe the protagonist doesn't kill their dad, right? But they realize their dad is not a good man, and they accept that in order to be a hero, they need to stop idolizing their father and let their father die, metaphorically, so they can then not be comparing themselves to their father and trying to be their father, but trying to be something separate and better. Or like the father actually does die. The father dies, and now they must become, they must fill those shoes and become even greater and not die to what their father died from. And there's all these different metaphors for, killing the father, but Spike sets out with his dad in this hero's journey to become a man and part of his community. And I got, some things here that, just goes off, but like he learns about risk and consequences, the risk of leaving the city and the consequence of if you don't time things right, you're going to be stuck on the other side and you won't be able to get home. The fact that if you're out there and you don't come home, no one's coming to rescue you. It's against the rules of the community. He's told that he has to kill infected, and in killing infected, his father tells him, like, the infected are soulless. Since they have no mind and self-control, this means they have no soul, which means they're not human anymore. And so killing them is like almost a mercy. And it's actually better to kill them than it is even like to kill an animal. Like, because an animal still has its soul and
it has
value. These things have no value. They are only a danger. To be cold and is that kind of mindset of like being cold and killing the infected, to survive, right? Like they have a very close call before they get home, where an alpha almost kills them right on the doorstep of their community as they're running across the causeway, and they barely survive by the skin of their teeth. And then ultimately they also he learns like from the father figure to tell lies, to be grandiose, to boast, to, even though they did something great and they succeeded and they lived, it's not enough for those who don't go out.
Yep.
And his father lies about it and talks it up and makes it bigger than what it was. Whereas Spike is like realizing, he's like, why lie about it when what did happen is enough. That was crazy. And he realizes like his father justifies it like, well, they need this.
And it puts Spike in a position to now have to be what his father said he was. Because Spike was losing his crap, couldn't hit a shot, and his father had to save him. When he get back, he's like, Spike was just taking them all out. Like there's not like
one after another.
He's a giant slayer. All these things like, and so
he's King David.
Exactly, and he's setting him up for now this like he has to fill these fake shoes right out the gate. These
big mythical shoes. And then of course the death of the father, which is the rejection of the father in this film. Spike's father doesn't die, but he catches him going off to have an affair with another member of the community, and that kills Spike's admiration of his father, which he deeply admired his father before that event. But like all that kind of built up, and realizing like his father probably has lied a lot over the years about his experiences crossing to the mainland. And wonders, how long has his father been having this affair while his mom's sick? And so the father figure dies, and we even see Spike at one point draw a knife on his dad and threaten him. And his father quickly, easily, and without any violence disarms him. But it's enough like metaphorical that like, oh, I've been severed, and my son has killed the image of me in his mind and in his heart, and is kicking me out of the house. Like I'm dead to them now. And I thought that was a very good tight. I felt tight to me. It didn't feel like there's really any wasted time in that first act, right, of killing the father of the hero's journey.
An interesting little thing I saw in there is at one point the father did lose self-control and backhand his son.
He did. He struck him
when he brought up the affair to him, but then he did like he snatched the hand out of his son's hand, and for about 1/10 of a second his hand shook, and then he closed the knife and gave it back to him. Like he did, because I think the part of it too was like and I don't think they ever portrayed Jimmy as an evil man or a bad man, just as like a
Jimmy,
not Jimmy, sorry, the dad, what's the dad's name?
I think he's just
Jamie.
known as
his name's Jamie. Sorry, the dad, Jamie.
You're right.
They don't ever portray the dad as bad or evil, just kind of flawed man. Like and so like in the same way,
he's probably, honestly, anyone would probably say he's a good man,
right?
Self-sacrifices for the community.
And I think I even saw like,
but he's flawed.
Yeah, like I saw myself in some of those things of like just like like when you do lose control, but then also there's times when you do rein it, or whatever, just but like the struggle, the internal struggle in a man, too. And so like we saw in those two instances, he slapped his son, and then a few minutes later, he like obviously he's not gonna, maybe not obviously kill his son, but like, and then also gave it back to him, gave the knife back to him. So he also restored something there, but it also, the harm and hurt to the relationship was done at that point.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Something crazy cool, like interesting happens too. They find an infected strung up here with letters carved on the infected, and you can't really tell what they are right when you see it because the infected's upside down and the initials are carved into it, and it's kind of hard to tell, like, because it's going vertical, if they're initials of letters or if they're symbolic, like weird kind of like pagan symbols. But they'll come back in later. All right, next one is becoming a man, nurture a mother, which is, again, often we see in movies where like the mother becomes ill, the mother becomes incapable of self-care, and the hero must now become the nurturer, become the guardian that their mother once was to them. And Spike goes off on this journey after removing his father, telling his father to leave him and his mother alone. He sneaks out with his mom from the community, fully knowing no one's coming to rescue them once they find out they've left. And he's searching for this enigmatic kind of myth of a doctor that has survived in the post-apocalypse and has even been rumored to be like actually
A madman.
like perhaps another villain.
Right. Yeah. Maybe you shouldn't go see him.
Yeah, but like the possibility that a doctor could cure his mom's ailment is too great to like not set out to do. And it's interesting because you realize Spike has only lived in a world where there are no doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And this is again kind of like that medieval fantasy thing, is like Spike doesn't really comprehend what doctors can do.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you think about Arthur. Arthur hears about, like in the King Arthur story,
Mhm.
he hears about wizards, but he has really no comprehension of like what Merlin could do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what powers does Merlin truly have? It's all rumor, right? And there's almost no other wizards.
And he just knows doctors make people not sick.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Or they can.
Uh-huh.
Right. And so he sets out on this journey to find the wizard, the wise man in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And he leads his mom, and he finds like, he has to become his mother's guardian because she's mentally unwell and can't keep track of events, and she's kind of having events and memories in real time where thinks she's a younger girl and that Spike is her dad. And he realizes what it's like to be alone, I think. And when you're a guardian and caretaker, you don't you could be alone. Like, and I'm not a parent, but I've heard this from parents is like, yeah, you have your kid, but sometimes when you're the only person looking out for your kid in this scenario, it can be lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're like, your kid is they're not an adult. They're not a person really yet.
Yeah.
Like they're still becoming a person. And I think he sees that with his mom, is that like there's times of loneliness while looking after her because she's not a true companion because she requires his nurture and care. We see him fail and fall short, especially like when his mom has to save his life in the middle of the night and he's not aware of it even.
He tries to do the big boy task of keeping watch.
And falls asleep.
Mhm.
And his mom literally saves him inches from being eaten.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see him, though, experience what it means to defend and protect. He's willing to get shot and killed
Mm-hmm.
in order to protect his mom.
Mm-hmm.
And also like infected, right? He's several times almost killed because he's trying to save his mom. Whereas if he left her, it would have been a non-issue.
Right.
And then lastly, he also, quote unquote, kills his mother. And usually we don't see the killing of the mother really in the hero's journey. It's more of this shape of to let go,
Mm-hmm.
to mourn,
To leave, and or like you leave, you get off the nipple.
you cleave, right? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he does let go. He's informed by the wizard, the wise man, after they find him, that there is actually no cure for his mother's illness, unfortunately. Like but the journey has occurred, and unfortunately the reward is not your mother being healed.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to say goodbye to his mom, and he also has to mourn her very almost unrealistically quickly.
It's wild.
But he has to mourn her and accept like this is part of moving on in this world, and like I get to say goodbye to her, and she gets to have a peaceful death, and this is the best we could hope for in this world.
Mm-hmm.
But it is without a doubt the death of the mother,
Oh yeah.
just like the death of the father.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, on that one note right there,
Mm-hmm.
that was the most horrific thing to me in the whole movie.
Hands down, most horrific thing. Second, I was going to back up a hair
Sure.
to the
Yeah,
second
do it,
most
yeah.
horrific thing in the movie, because it plays into this the piece of the mom. When we find a gnarly, pregnant, infected,
Oh yeah, was crazy.
pushing a baby out on the train,
yeah,
and this scene where the mother comes up and she takes the hands of the infected, an unthinkable act,
yeah.
truly unthinkable. Like
She puts her hands up, and the infected takes her hands.
Yeah.
like the infected somehow processes. In this moment, I need someone to hold on to.
yeah, and then this baby comes out. It's wild. I was waiting for the baby to bite the mom, because I'm still this whole movie. I will say, because I went into it expecting a horror movie.
You're waiting for
the scariest thing the whole movie was all the things I expected to happen that weren't happening. Like all of a sudden that baby to be get her, or whatever. Like, and 'cause at any moment in a horror movie, main character can just bite the dust,
Dude,
right? Like,
yeah. In Dawn of the Dead, we were all preconditioned. If you're pregnant in the apocalypse, your baby's going to be a zombie.
yeah, exactly. Just like, so, and really that didn't happen throughout the movie where like,
No.
There was some side characters died, but there was never like that, like, all of a sudden out of nowhere, boom, main characters hit.
Yeah.
It would be a standard zombie movie thing. So that the fact they never did that kept me on the edge all the time. But this goes back to the way the father treated the infected of like, just kill them. Like, and it's good if you do, and you have to, and you must. No remorse, no mercy. And then to the mother side of things where she actually like something in her, drew her to like helping this other woman have her baby.
She like echolocation in on this pregnant infected.
Mm-hmm.
Like she hears the wailing of it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like in her mind, at her core,
Like a woman needs
she's like,
help.
oh, that's a woman giving birth.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really wish there was a pregnant woman with us there in the movie theater to let us know of like, do you think you can tell the difference between like a woman like, help me, I'm being eaten, and I'm giving birth. Like I do wonder if there's like a weird core like primal difference between the two.
Maybe they could, but I'd say that, and in most cases, it sounds about the same. Like that, you're like
to us, right? But we don't
right,
give birth,
right? And so but just the fact that both things inflict the same utterance out of you, right?
Yeah.
And and then we have big old Samson
and his baby.
Yeah, Samson.
His baby arm of a cock. Good Lord. I remember seeing that thing swinging around, and I had heard like
I hadn't heard.
Alpha zombie has a big wang. And I was like, that's funny. And then like he jumps down through this hole in this train.
Yeah.
And the train's not moving, right? It's a crash train.
He jumps in dick first, and then his feet come through,
yeah,
basically.
He repels off his cock into the train. No, but honestly, like I think of a pig leg. Think of like a full-grown pig and its leg. That's attached to his pelvis, just smacking around. And Samson's like go-to move is ripping people's heads off Predator style. Like
spine and all.
Yeah, head and spine coming out of the body. I don't get why he didn't just start smacking people with that thing. He could have just been braining people left and right with it like a bat. Anyways, giant penis. Insane. Not a real penis, it turns out. Total prosthetic. But which makes me, I was like, interesting design choice, I guess. So what part of that, though, you say that was the second most horrific thing to the mom's death.
Mm-hmm.
What was the most horrific part of that? Like seeing the baby born?
Just watching that infected lady give birth.
Yeah, they totally show it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say like, if that's what it looks like.
Damn.
I mean, that's
fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like. It's just like, oh, they're like, and so I mean, it was just that plus the fact of how scared I was during it. Just like, what is happening? This is so. I was with the soldier on that one.
Yeah,
I would have walked in and just.
Well, the soldier says, "Put this fucking zombie baby down so I can shoot it, or I'm gonna shoot you." Mm-hmm. And I think it's the only time the word zombie gets used. But it is. Go ahead.
Because I personally I would have killed both of them.
I see. All of a sudden, I just disagree with you on that one.
Really?
Because I get what you're saying, and I also think that would have been the right call in the moment based on the knowledge he had.
You're right.
But I also think the knowledge that the survivors have on the island of like, well, these aren't just zombies. Like they are animalistic. And it's kind of like, I don't think I would kill a wolf in the middle of giving birth.
Right, but if my mom like walked up to it, I'm gonna kill that thing, bro.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But it was a very human moment, and it was a huge moment for the hero's journey. Where I think without that, if Spike had gotten to the doctor and the doctor's like, the infected are also humans. They have eyes that have cried, mouths that have spoken. I'd be like, no, they haven't.
Yeah,
they're eaters. They eat people. But after seeing them give birth to a non-infected baby,
that's the biggest thing. Being they give birth to a baby that's not infected, a human.
Protected by the miracle of the placenta.
Exactly.
As Dr. Klein says. Or Kelson, Dr. Kelson. But yeah, it's so that was kind of horrific just in the tension. But dude, tell us why it was so horrific, the mom's death. Like,
So we got
why is that the most horrific part of the movie?
We got some foreshadowing where we watch this doctor. This doctor finds them and saves them from old Samson.
Played by Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah. And he drugs him. He doesn't kill Samson. He drugs Samson, takes the head of the soldier that's now been ripped out, who was helping the mom and son. And they go, and then they throw the skull in an incinerator, burn off what they can.
A steamer, not even an incinerator.
Yeah, well, steamer because incinerator actually would have cooked it off. So they steam the skull, then they're washing it off. I mean, that looked like what it looks like when you clean an animal's skull. They're flicking off pieces of flesh and hair and stuff. He gets this skull all clean because now they're in this skull tower bone forest that the doctor has created as a memorial to death. And so then, Spike goes and
insane memento mori.
Yeah. And he takes the Spike finds a place for the soldier's head and puts him in the pyramid. And then so now we've seen that happen. We know what the doctor does with dead people. And last we see, the doctor is walking off with the mom who has accepted death. Cut to him handing the kid a freshly cleaned skull.
Yeah. Like, he walks her off and gives a little blow dart. Not sure how much time passes because it's like clear that Spike is underneath some insane LSD tripping stuff.
They morphined him. And like, I guess, he's hallucinating the stars and stuff, things going around him. But then, I mean, it's just a couple hours.
The film jumps quickly. It's seconds.
Yeah, I'd say,
it could have been maybe 3-4 hours.
Yeah, it was the middle of the night, but then morning's coming.
Yeah.
And he walks up and hands the kid a
Mama's skull.
Yeah. That was wild. And I was wondering then for you, like, you're very close to your mom.
Very close.
So I was wondering throughout this movie, the pieces of this that were like, probably hit you differently than me.
It definitely hit me pretty hard because my mom, when she had a TBI, was also very much behaviorally just like the mom in this film.
Because it turns out mom had brain cancer and it was incurable.
Yeah, turned out she had brain cancer and was probably going to die in a couple days from it. But yeah, when my mom had her TBI, which also my mom had breast cancer when I was really young. And so like at 6th grade, I was like cooking food for my mom and taking care of her while she was like recovering from chemo and stuff. So I had that like hero's journey arc, right, of nurturing the nurturer pretty early on. And then when she had that TBI and I was in college, I had like a real big like, oh my gosh, like quote unquote, like at least for over a year. And even nowadays, I describe it as like my mom died. Like my mom got in this car accident and the person that was on the other side of it was not at all my mother. Like totally different human being in regards to like how they were processing emotions and stuff. There was just like that aspect of okay, I can mourn my mom for who she was, but I also need to be grateful for like who this is right now. And I'm like called to care or love like who this person is right now because they're still with me, even though like I accept this isn't my mom. And my mom has like really healed through that, but like to this day, I still say my mom is a different person. Like my mom used to be much more quick to anger, and like she had like a temper, and if you insulted her, she would be much quicker to like get mad and defensive. Now though, she's in a like her response to that items, and she listens to podcasts, so I'm curious to hear her perspective on this. But like if I was to insult her with the same thing I said in high school that made her angry, now I think that would make her cry. And it's like the anger pathway almost got completely erased when she had the TBI. And it's like the way the brain is healed and reprocessed and learned how to handle those emotions is like sadness. And it was just very interesting. But like I see that a lot in like this movie where like clearly Ma used to be someone else. And Spike talks about that. He's like, she wasn't always this way. She was very different. was only a few years ago she started becoming this way and getting confused and having these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And even the way the mom describes it, of like how there's a part of me that knows I'm confused and knows this isn't the right way of thinking, or that this is the wrong memory.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom would say that stuff too when she had her TBI really early on, where like she heard with her TBI, she couldn't even listen to music, like the radio and stuff, because the frequencies would just give her like just blood banging headaches. And so we would like, I bought her headphones when she was in her TBI, very expensive headphones to like block out certain sounds and frequencies so she could like maintain herself throughout the day. All that said, it was really relatable to me to see that journey. And honestly, like the reason I say the most horrific thing is because like I saw that and I was like, I would not be okay. I would not be okay.
Yeah.
Like if I was told your mom's gonna die, the best thing we could do for her is kill her right now in a peaceful way. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna come back with her skull, and you got to put her skull in a pile of bones. I was telling Billie Jean this. I was like, that was the most horrific thing to me because I cannot mentally think about how I'd be okay doing that. I would have an insane meltdown. And that was, I guess, the best part of the horror movie, right? Is like I was like, yeah, that's horrific. Like, but that's not what I go into this movie thinking the horror is going to be. And when you realize that, like, the true horror of this movie is
the reality of life, and
the reality of your parents dying, the reality of your father no longer being your hero, and your mom, you're having to bury your mother. And it did a good job at that, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I can deal with like maybe a guy with a chainsaw hacks up a bunch of teenagers. Just, now it's like, hey, this is actually real life.
Hey, okay, I thought I was watching a zombie movie. This is just a Hallmark classic. Okay. But so all that said, I thought that was, and it seems like you agree too, I guess. Like, I don't know. Do you feel like that was the most horrific
definitely.
kind of?
It was there was no blood, there was no guts, there was no screaming.
Just the concept.
It was just what they did, with the storytelling. Because before there'd been plenty of that, but that was the most horrific part of the movie for sure.
Yeah. Lastly, the wizard, the sage, new father figure, right? Which is always in the hero's journey. You kill the father, you go out on the journey, you find the wizard. The wizard is a surrogate father. We see that with Ralph Fiennes' Dr. Kelson. He shares this new wisdom, right? He's like, oh, these pile of bones, these giant statues of bones are not meant to intimidate or cause fear. They're memorials because memento mori, remember you will die and you must die. Remember you have to die. There's no choice about it. And this is just to echo like both infected and non-infected die, and at the end of it, their bones look the same, indistinguishable. And he also though imparts the other one, this like warm empathetic thing, and he's like, and he says this when he has to say goodbye to his mother. He says, but memento amoris, is it amoris or amoris? It's Latin, not Roman, which I know a lot of people are like, oh no, it's amora, but it's not. It's the Latin version of love. But remember love. Remember you must also love. And these are very like non-traditional. Well, I guess he incorporates both the father's coldness, remember death, with the mother's warmth, remember love. And he's this perfect balance between the two, right? Of like, these are both parts of life. To be the hero, you must appreciate both. And we also see like this character gives Spike the opportunity to succeed because Spike saves him from Samson. Spike isn't simply just surviving, but Spike saves the doctor from being murdered by Samson without killing Samson. Which is, I think, supposed to be, a metaphor for like conquering the monster in the woods, right? Like realizing like, oh, maybe I don't have to kill the dragon. Maybe I just need to understand the dragon and understand that the dragon's just protecting its woods, protecting its pregnant dragon wives. And I don't have to kill it, and I can deal with it in a way that appreciates it without getting murdered. It is a beast. It is a wild animal, but it's not evil and soulless. Which goes into like the other part I have here, just the monster in the woods, which is the infected. And the infected really do, to me, like you could replace infected if this was an Arthurian tale or a Shakespeare tale. This is just the trolls, the goblins in the woods.
Yes, it's the orcs and
Yeah.
the things.
And you realize like you're like, oh, they're not like soulless. They're beast, just like anything else. They just are also, they look like people. And you know, he goes through the journey of like, oh, I'm very afraid because I've never seen one, never encountered one, and now I have to encounter one. To like, okay, now I'm aware of them, I'm learning of them, I know what to look out for. To conquering them, killing them, outpacing them, surviving them, and then like at the end to respecting them. And I think what we see by the end of the film in the final like scene is him like he has no fear of them. He's aware of them. He sees them. He's like aware while he's cooking his fish. He's like, all right, I'm gonna have to deal with this one. Probably gonna have to kill it. And there might be a couple others I have to kill. But even then, when there's more of them showing up than he can handle, he starts running. It doesn't come off as like running for fear. Just like
tactical retreat.
Tactical retreat. I gotta give this up. Like, but like an appreciation of like this is what I'm dealing with. Which leads to the final thing. Jimmy. Jimmy returns. And I think Jimmy's a monster. I think Jimmy is a villain. And I think that's the final thing is like the monsters aren't in the woods. The monsters are the other people. Things live in the woods, but they can be dealt with. They can be understood. But you can't understand some people. Some people are monsters, and they are beyond understanding. And when Jimmy appears, the flippin' whiplash, the whole tonal whiplash of the film is unreal. And it was the thing I hated the most. I also understand kind of why they went that direction. Because Jimmy shows up, king of his own crew who have to all dress like him in this. I found out they're dressing after that one celebrity.
It's also named Jimmy. Yeah.
It's like that famous English celebrity. You mind looking him up, Pat? Because you got a computer. My computer I left at home. But they're dressed as a celebrity with like tracksuits and cricket bats, and they're doing front flips off of this, short cliff edge onto the road where they are just not just killing the infected, but they're harassing the infected. They're taunting and playing with them and torturing them in a very maniacal way. And Spike seems to like be in awe because he's like, oh my gosh, like these are like superhumans, the way they're flipping around, and they're dressed in these tracksuits that kind of look like Power Ranger suits, like my action figure. Also, though, like this is excessive. Like they could just kill them instead of like making a game.
They're playing with them.
Yeah, hanging them up.
Who can kill them the coolest, most wildest way?
Exactly.
His name was Jimmy Savile.
Savile,
and he was famous. He was knighted, but he was also had big accusations of sexual abuse of children. And
he apparently was like one of the biggest predators of all time.
He was probably kind of in that potentially in that Epstein league, or at least knew the guy. But this whole scene, really that scene was akin to post-credits Marvel scene.
Yeah, it was.
That's really what that was.
Yeah.
And like that maybe would have played out a little better
if it was post-credits.
If it was they did do one thing to break it up. And maybe they thought it would have breaking it up more. Remember, it said 28 days later.
Yeah.
So the movie ended, more or less. The movie ended, and then it said 28 days later, and then it showed this scene. Something a little, but it still felt like the movie hadn't ended.
Yeah.
In the same way that Marvel movie, which is now, if they'd done it this way, it's been done 48 million times.
Yeah.
Where you set up maybe something to come, or tell more to the story. And so there was whiplash. It was totally outside of this film.
The cool thing I get about it now, though, is like this is definitely a British cultural thing. Like, like Jimmy Savile was revealed as a predator sometime in like the early 2000s, which no one in this world of this film would have learned because the world ended in 2002. So all of these kids who were growing up and the world ended in 2002 for them, Jimmy Savile was like still a culture. Jimmy Savile to them is like what Robert Downey Jr. is to a bunch of kids today, or like, you know, I don't know, Mr. Beast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like the fact that like the world, like the film keeps this like meta path along with it, where it's like, yep, Jimmy, who was James in the beginning, the young kid we saw in the beginning of the film running from the zombies on the day of the apocalypse, he is dressed like Jimmy Savile, and all of his other Jimmys in his gang are dressed like Jimmy Savile, because Jimmy Savile was a cultural icon they can recall from their childhood. And they probably saw a ton of magazines of him still across England, and they probably found tapes of him and radio broadcasts, whatever. And so he was never revealed to be a pedophile, so they never saw him as a villain, just as a hero. And so it makes sense that like they maintained this hero image of him, and like that's the iconography they follow in their post-apocalyptic gang, which I think like a similar one today honestly would be like if the world ended not today, maybe I'm gonna say 5 years ago, at the peak of the rock celebrity thing, when he was in everything and it wasn't like burned out yet. And then like let's say we found out that The Rock was a pedophile later on or something like that. If the world ended, though, and no one ever found out about it, and all this post-apocalypse media remained of just like what they could find in magazines and, you know, on old videos and VHS stuff, man, they would find like The Rock in like Fast Five insulting Tyrese Gibson and funny, and he's jacked as hell, and he's also in Moana. And they'd be like, oh yeah, let's make a gang after The Rock. And let's all wear turtleneck sweaters and jeans and fanny packs while we kill zombies. And so it's like, I get that iconography, and like I think it's kind of cool. It seems very aware. And we also see that Jimmy is throughout the film kind of graffitied over stuff that we don't really like. You kind of notice, and you're like, well, that's obvious it's there, but like what's the point of it? And then it now kind of comes home, right? Is like there's the ruins or pagan things carved into that body in the beginning that Spike finds on the infected hanging is actually Jimmy just upside down. They carved Jimmy into the zombie, and then we see Jimmy scratch into walls next to like Bible verses, Revelation kind of stuff. And so it's clear that like the Jimmy gang is here on the mainland, and they leave call signs to themselves all around. I don't know if you had any other final thoughts about that final scene, or like, because everyone has said like the second movie is supposed to be following Jimmy's gang.
Yeah, and I think that it brings the movie full circle, where the kid we saw running off with the cross was not the protagonist, right? Because we get to one other story, then it circles all the way back to him showing up. And at this point now, Jimmy's got the same cross still. Now he's got it upside down.
Yeah.
You know, which I think really is I think it's mean a lot of different things, but I do think it is also a rejection of like his father's faith,
rejection of the killing his own father,
rejection of his own, that stuff, and an evil sign, like and upside down cross means a lot of different things. It's not always evil, but I think in this case it is like also it is like
symbolic of a evil
of
person.
something evil, you know, and so I think that the next movie will just be very different.
I'm excited to see it, which I know may sound strange because of how betrayed I felt by this one going into it. But now having this expectation kind of adjusted and knowing more about like how Jim from the first movie is supposed to return in the fourth one. And we have this Jim who, you know, was a good figure in that movie, and he was a hero figure, and he'll be returning. And we have Jimmy, who's definitely appearing to be a villain. I'm excited to kind of see like if they can pull it off tastefully without it being cringy, the duality of these two heroes. You're right. And it's kind of like, you know, the Jesus Satan duality, right? Of like Lucifer, who became Satan, was the most beautiful angel and was cast out for, you know, essentially betraying God. And then you have Christ, who is, you know, the perfect image of God in man's form. And there is that duality between the two And I do expect to see something similar to that. I don't know how they're going to do it without making Jim a messiah figure. Like, I don't think he wasn't a messianic figure in the first film. He was just a hero. And they also need to do that while making sure Spike progresses his hero journey, because Spike is still supposed to be the main character of the next movies. So we'll see what goes on. I don't know how they're going to. It'd be cool to see if they pull it off well.
Yep. And is the next one supposed to come out kind of soon?
Yeah, like 2026.
Yeah.
Like they're apparently already almost done.
It's already getting after it. So,
yeah.
So it should come out soon, and we'll see what it does. And I think it'll be a lot different. Different director, different writer, I think, too. So
the director I'm worried about, she has only made flops. Like franchise killing flops.
Just a woke director.
Yeah. Like Marvel stuff that sucked really bad.
Yeah.
Well, I think actually she was the director for the movie The Marvels, which, do you know what that was?
I did not like it.
Oh, you saw it?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I haven't seen it. I don't know many people who even know what it was.
Yeah. Well, maybe she's going to decide to quit interjecting
politics,
her own stuff, and quit sucking.
Sure.
And like, you should actually address politics, but just don't throat cram it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Keep it like there's timeless political commentary. Timeless. Go back to any point in all history, commentate on it, and go with human condition stuff versus like just a hot topic of today and just getting it in there.
The best political commentary in movies is not the director's politics, it's the audience's.
Right.
When the director knows, hey, these are the political beliefs of my audience, I'm going to bring those in so they can experience them and see them dynamically. Those are usually the best political commentary, horror or action films, whatever, right? But when the director's like, this is my political opinion and it's going to be shoehorned in all the way, they don't realize that that is not the majority or even a large minority of the people who are going to view the film.
Or even like if someone completely pandered to my own political beliefs, it wouldn't get to me. You know, like
how many Christian movies are good?
Yeah, no kidding. But then like it just like, or either way, it's like if you're narrowing down to such a narrow thing as a current two-party system in a country that's been around for 200 years, like just back out a little to like in general, what's it been like for a long time? And that's why, kind of like, I don't know, there's countless examples of good movies that do talk about relationships between government and people or people's roles and whatever.
Yeah.
But we'll see what they do with it. We'll see what they do.
But anyways, trivia goofs regarding those. We've pretty much hit everything here that we kind of had notes on already throughout talking about the film. So I think, Pat, it's time for just final ratings.
Yeah.
Our thumbs. And any kind of closing thoughts or opinions. I'm going to let you go first because I don't want my opinion to try to like sway yours.
For sure. I think it was a good movie, well done movie. I think it probably in some ways needed like another 30 minutes to kind of wrap up some storylines or kind of let the end of the movie develop in some ways. But having not seen the other ones, I think it does stand alone, and it is helpful to have the other context to build off of. And at the same time, this really the hero's tale journey story they told, while there was some of like because they had to stick to like the quote unquote franchise, they sort of have like some of these like gruesome horror elements that maybe almost could retract from like a larger audience. Like it was a story that could be told more broadly, and like a lot of people aren't going to go see this because they're like, I don't watch those movies.
Oh, I don't watch horrors.
I don't watch that stuff, right? But it could appeal to a lot of audiences. But at the same time, I think in some ways it's like I went to an Asian Mexican fusion restaurant.
Oh yeah.
So it's what was that? There was the tamales were good, and I had a good crab wonton, but like the
together,
but like
they're not great. They're not gestating.
The General Tao enchiladas, I don't know. what that's about to do to my butthole. You know, I don't like, so I kind of like, it felt in that sense, right? And so to like where you spoke to feeling rug pulled or things like that, like I feel kind of like, what was the movie? And I guess movie doesn't have to just fall into a genre, but per se, but at the same time, I'm getting a little bit a Mexican Asian fusion going on as far as like what happened in that movie.
Yeah, I can totally see that too. But what do you give it?
I think
at the end of the day,
I think I'm kind of like a no thumb.
Okay,
it's a if you're 28 Days fan, obviously you got to see it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a big time 28 Days fan, you're probably gonna hate it.
Yeah.
If you're not a 28 Days fan and you don't like those type of movies, but you can still deal with violence, might be worth a Saturday night. But like, well, I won't watch it again. I'm not going to tell my wife to watch it.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't think it was a big stinker, like, or a bad movie.
Yeah.
I just think it was, maybe it just was a little bit weird in that sense.
Yeah. No, I get you. I think that's totally fair. I think the part that was, I think the worst parts of the movie were the decision and its soundtracks. I think the soundtracks used often swung between like ambient avant-garde and then British punk rock that felt out of place. And I think that like even for scenes that weren't like supposed to be punky, I think like in the beginning when we're getting the montage of what this island life is and how it's like medieval, it was a British like punk rock weird song. I was like, this doesn't fit to me. And it doesn't feel like, it feels like they were almost trying to make us feel like, yep, this is Spike's first day of high school. And I'm like, that's not what I feel like I should be framing this as. This is like a rite of passage, hero's journey kind of thing, right? So I really hated the music. I hated the music an insane amount. And I never even got the 28 Days Later song, which everyone knows it, even if you don't know what it is. Like when I say that, when you hear the 28 Days Later theme song, I can't remember who the original musician was that made it, but like it is one of the most famous horror songs of all time. It's been used in like comedy stuff because of how like well known it is, and like it's kind of calls in that vibe of like the zombie apocalypse. And they didn't use it once in the film, which made me feel very jerked around. I was pretty pissed. So, and I do think it is a decent hero's story, a decent coming of age hero's journey. I think it is a terrible zombie film. I think it is a absolutely atrocious, terrible 28 Days Later genre film. The first two for sure were way more aligned than this one is with either of those. And even though I appreciate it for what it ended up being, tell me how you feel about this, Pat. I think this movie is more fun to talk about than it is to watch.
Right.
Do you feel like that's fair?
It brings up a lot of big topics. There's a lot of big things you can talk about it with, but then like even going to like, it didn't stick to a certain theme throughout either. Like where they did have those scenes of, it was very similar to that trailer, first trailer that came out that got tons of playtime in the first couple hours. The boots
marching, and
like,
it feels like
that shouldn't have even been in the movie.
That should not have been in the movie. That trailer. Tell me that trailer had anything to do with the movie.
Right. It got you amped for it. Right.
Yeah, but it had no relation to the film.
But that like where they're I don't know the artistic decision to cut in the scenes from the past of it's showing like old movies of like arrows flying and stuff. And
it was like men go marching into war. The war machine keeps on turning.
And the arrows flying, but it was scenes from old movies and stuff, which was fine. But that to me at the beginning felt like we were setting up for, it was all set up for a horror movie. The beginning, the first 20 minutes set us up for a horror movie that never came.
Yeah, you know what I really thought that trailer was telling us? I thought it was saying, yep, there is going to be like due to the pride and arrogance of man,
Mm-hmm.
there is going to be this great manifest destiny of like, it's our destiny to take back England.
Right.
And it's going to be from two perspectives. It's going to be the perspective of the people living this medieval society,
And the
there's
world.
in the world with the military
And
units.
we really didn't get, this wasn't a worldwide movie. The first
No.
two, I'm sure, were.
They were.
Right? They were
Yeah.
worldwide eyes on versus we only briefly got the outside world's perspective from a 20-something-year-old soldier.
Yeah.
And that's it. The world doesn't care about it anymore either way. They
Nope.
just patrol it. Like there's no...
In the Boots song made me think like, so what we're going to get is the like, it's our destiny to do this. And no matter how many people die, that's worth, like that cost is worth
Mhm.
the victory, the pride of taking back England, taking back our home.
And going back to the trailer, I thought I was going to see bow and arrows shooting at bullets. You know,
Like some medieval versus soldier stuff.
Right. Just meaning like there's people like there's like the wildings now versus
The cannibal people.
Yeah. Or the cannibal people or just the tribal people here versus like, I thought it was going to be.
I listened to that episode where we talked about the trailer not too long ago.
Uh-huh.
I think that would have been a better movie.
Yeah.
Because we were like, it seems like, that there's going to be this cannibal faction that uses the infected to find other people. And they eat the people, just like the zombies do.
Right, like, yeah.
And I was like, that would have been scary.
yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, all right. So all that said, I feel cock teased. Even more now when I find out Samson's penis isn't real. Which honestly we all are relieved by. I give it a thumb down, man.
Yeah.
There are better coming of age stories.
Mm-hmm.
There are better Arthurian tales.
Mhm.
And even if it had telegraphed, hey, this is actually an Arthurian tale wrapped up in the post-apocalypse story,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would have succeeded in being like a thumb upper there, because it hit all the right beats, just not good enough. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna give it a thumb down.
I think that's fair.
I'm both fronts.
Yeah.
I do enjoy talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want to watch it again.
Yeah.
So all right, there we go. All right, so from the Mick and Pat show, this Brews and Reviews, the beer gets no thumbs up. Just a nice average C+ beer, Zombie Ice by Three Floyds. It will satisfy your IPA desires, but it's not going to like knock your socks off. And then 28 years later, it tells an average coming of age hero's journey. It does not tell a good zombie story. And the most horrific part of it is not the zombies eating people.
Mm-mm.
It's the, oh my God, I got to take my mother's skull and put it on top of another pile of skulls.
Mm-hmm.
So take that with what you will. Love to hear your feedback. I'd love to know that we're wrong. Tell us why we're wrong if you can. Leave your comments or whatever. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the film. But thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us. Pat, do you got anything you want to sign off with?
Till next time. Thanks for tuning in. If you love this episode, drop us a review. If you have qualms or comments, leave us a voicemail on our website. While you're there, check out our latest news, merch, and deals from our sponsors. Till next time, Ken.